it came to the film Cocaine Bear, I've got to be completely honest, I really enjoyed it. It was very fun. I felt like it was a very silly but very gory, shocking film which really elevated the humour in this film. I think each and every character had their own little comic timing and did really well to add to the comedic atmosphere. Whilst this film is a comedy, it can also be seen as a horror as well because of the way the bear acts and the terror it unleashes upon people. Albeit I would say it's more of a horror comedy, but at the same time it still has those elements. It's really interesting seeing characters being chased by the bear, or very tense moments where the bear's very close to a particular character, or that particular character is in danger. Not only does it add to the horror element and intensifies it, but it also does that with the same with humour. I think it makes it even funnier, which I really did enjoy. Now when it comes to the bear, I would say it's more like a Jaws character, but at the same time it does have elements of Jason Voorhees from the Friday the 13th franchise in certain scenes, especially when cocaine is involved. I enjoyed the fact that this film didn't feel like it had to add an agenda to it like most comedy films. And it doesn't necessarily try and tell us, the audience, that cocaine is bad as we are seeing it throughout the film, hence the bear who is doing all these horrific actions. And even one of the child characters points out that the drug dealer in question, that being Ray Liotta, is the main reason for this whole fiasco, and in that way that's how they push the meaning of that cocaine is bad and that cocaine dealing is bad. But it didn't feel like it was forced like other films would. I really enjoyed seeing multiple narratives connecting them all into the midst of the cocaine bear or even getting attacked. So we see that a mother is looking for her child and her child's best friend who went into the woods. We see the dealers themselves going after the cocaine and going to try and find it. We see a cop trying to hunt down those particular criminals. We see a park ranger who is escorting the mother to look through the woods to find her children, but at the same time flirting with a wildlife activist. And then an ambulance shows up, and it was really interesting to see how all these people were connecting and going into the woods only to be viciously attacked. I found that very enjoyable. As well as that, there are moments with cool action scenes, not very comedic but still very interesting, albeit very small ones. It was very nice to see in that sense. When it comes to criticisms, I do have a few. First of all, I feel like the film is a bit short. Now, I will admit, comparing it to most modern films these days, I would say that yes, it is very short, but then again, we have been so normalised to 2-hour plus films. 90 minutes does feel a bit odd, but in a way it was somewhat of a relief. My next criticisms, I feel like the beginning part of the film wasn't the best of the film, but it definitely built up much better and took off. I'd say around the 30-minute mark, that's when you see the film getting much more interesting and funnier. When it comes to the beginning, it's more hit or miss, especially when comedic dialogue. Now, overall, I think this film is silly, dumb, horror-esque funny. I really enjoyed it. It did feel like a breath of fresh air to an extent, and it's definitely a comedy film I will be going back to. And yeah, it was something that in the last 3 to 5 years I don't think I've really seen. It was really interesting to see it become a movie. So is this good? I'd say yeah, it's really good. It's probably great even. Rating wise, I would give it an 8 out of 10. Now, recommendations, obviously because of the bear, I'd recommend Jaws. I'd recommend Friday the 13th, specifically the Jason films, as the two characters do share somewhat similarities. If you watch the film, you know what I mean. On the comedy aspect, 100% I would recommend the film Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. It's definitely a film that was playing from my mind a lot when watching this film, especially when it came to the horror-esque comedy. That was the first film I've ever really seen comedy and horror being mixed together, and I think this film is definitely on that same level. Last but 100% not least is The Boys, as they also share that humour, albeit I think The Boys do it much more and definitely take it to the extreme. I think this film is great, but I definitely think The Boys is an extreme version of the humour we get in this film. Alright, those are my recommendations. This has been my review for Cocaine Bear. If you have enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and as always, thank you and have a good day.